Okay, so I just wanted to run through Vocab 1A with you because this is what we've been doing in class. So you'll notice, first off, when we're looking at the vocab sheet, that it looks a little different, and that's because we now have the present tense, but we're going to start our second tense here. This is the preterite tense. It's one of two past tenses in Spanish. So in English, we only have one past tense. In Spanish, there are two. So we are solely focusing on the preterite tense right now, okay? So the first phrase on here is last summer, and this is spoken el verano pasado. In this phrase, last is pasado, and you can think of that like it looks like past, right? So it's past already. It's in the last. And then el verano is the summer. Bueno, so we're getting the last summer, but remember in Spanish we flip our word order. So where English we would say last summer, in Spanish they say summer last. Now this is just a starter phrase. You could absolutely trade verano out for another time frame if you wanted to. So like say you wanted last year, el año pasado, last week, la semana pasada. Bueno, but this is the main phrase, but again you can manipulate it to meet your needs. And the next one is he went. And you know this word already. This comes from the verb ir. Bueno, ir means to go. Now, in the present tense, okay, again, you learned this one last year. So in the present tense, he or she goes is va. Now, just a reminder on what that whole chart looks like in the present tense. It's right here. Okay, it's voy, vas, va, vamos, van. We don't worry about the nosotros tense. So don't worry about it on here, but you're going to see it. So voy, vas, va, vamos, van. Again, that's not a new chart. But you'll notice then on the chart, on the vocab chart, we do have the new conjugation of the preterite tense, which is fue, as he went. This is an irregular verb in the preterite tense. And here's what that chart looks like. It's fui, fuiste, fue, fuimos, fueron. Okay, this is your first irregular verb of the preterite tense. It'd be a really good idea to memorize that one well because it's one less thing to have to memorize in the future when we get to that irregular preterite unit. Okay, the next word is boyfriend. That's not a new one to you guys. It's novio. You know, girlfriend is novia. Did you know this can also mean fiancé? It's just going to be based off the context as to whether it's boyfriend or fiancé. All right, the next verb is he followed. This is pronounced siguió. Siguió. Notice that we do not hear the U when we pronounce the word. Again, siguió, not siguió, siguió. Okay. The only job of the U here is to keep the G as a G, because if it weren't here, if it were like this, that would be pronounced sigio. But we don't want that. We want siguió. And that's why there's a U there, but we don't hear it. Now, this comes from the verb to follow, which is seguir. Okay. And so we can go into the present tense. Now, in the present tense, this guy is a stem change. Okay. Now, a couple things to remember with the present tense stem changers. There are three main ones: E to I, E to IE, and O to UE. And present tense stem changers happen in the boot. Okay. So, okay. So if we look at this verb conjugated out into the present tense, you'll notice we have yo sigo, tú sigues, él sigue, nosotros seguimos, ellos siguen. So notice how we have that stem change. And if this were written in like a T-chart form, you would notice that it's in the boot, okay? But the nosotros form does not get that stem change because it's not in the boot. The other thing that's kind of funky about this one is that if you look closely, you'll notice we're missing a letter in the yo form conjugation, and that letter is the U. The U is gone, and that's because when a G is followed by an O, it makes a G sound, just like in tango, right? But so we don't need the U there because we're trying to maintain the G sound throughout the conjugations. But in the rest of the forms, we still need it because of the vowels that follow the G, okay? So over here, the present tense he or she follows, we would want sigue because that is in the boot and it does have an E to I stem change in the present tense. Now, when you look at the preterite tense, again, we started at seguir. Preterite tense conjugation, you're seeing siguió. So you'll notice here, we also have a stem change. So stem changes do exist in the preterite tense. However, they are different than what we see in the present. So here we have an E to I stem change. However, in the preterite tense, it only happens in what we're going to call the sandal, so the bottom two rungs of that T chart. Okay, so let's just take a look at the preterite tense conjugations over here. So the preterite tense, we're seeing seguí, seguiste, siguió, seguimos, siguieron. So if this were written in a T-chart, you would notice that only these two purple words, right, these purple stems are having that stem change happen. Again, that's because they're in the sandal. We're also seeing here for the first time your preterite tense ERIR endings, which are I, iste, yo, imos, ieron. And we're definitely going to be seeing those more throughout the year. All right, then the final phrase on the vocab sheet is he yelled at him or her. And the phrase for that is le gritó. So in this phrase, grito is he yelled, and the le is at him or her. But we're going to start just by looking at the verb grito. This is not a new word for you guys. You saw this one last year. And that verb is gritar, right? That's to yell. Okay, present tense, it's a completely regular verb. So in order to say he yells at him, we would say le grita, right? Again, it's a completely regular verb. So if we look at its present tense conjugations, it'd be grito, gritas, grita, gritamos, gritan. All right, then we get to the preterite tense, which is grito. Now, this is the first time we're going to be seeing an AR verb conjugated into the preterite tense. So let's take a look at that chart. So preterite tense, we've got grite, gritaste, grito, gritamos, gritaron. No stem change is happening here. It's a regular preterite tense verb as well. But our new endings are aste, o, amos, aron. So just a couple of things to note here. The first thing is that we have grito in the present tense, yo, and then we have grito in the la auster form in the preterite. Now, that accent makes a big difference because when we don't have it up here, it means I yell, present tense. But when we do see that accent over the O, now it means he or she yelled in the past tense. So that accent makes a difference in meaning, but also in how we say the word. So in the present tense, it's grito. In the preterite tense, it's grito. So remember, we're going to punch that when we see the accent on top of it. The other thing I think that is worth pointing out is that the nosotros form in the present tense and the preterite is the exact same. They look like gritamos, both of them. Okay? And we're going to know which tense it is just based off of the context of the story. So just kind of keep that in mind. All right, then this is your starter phrase. Again, you can manipulate this phrase to make it mean what you want to mean. So let's say we wanted, instead of he yelled at him or her, we wanted it to say he yells at me. Well, if that were the case, we would just have to change this front word because, again, that's the at whoever. So if we wanted he yells at me, we would say me grita. Or he yells at you, te grita. Or if you wanted to say I yell at you, then we would have to change the gritar verb because I'm doing the yelling. So now if we change it to grito, we have I yell at you. So this is your starter phrase. You can manipulate that. So you can change this verb so different people can do the verb, but you can also change this word up front, okay, so that you're yelling at different people. Now, you have seen the chart for that before because we've used it with the verb gustar. And that chart is me, te, le, nos, les. So again, we yell at them, les gritamos. Bueno, and so you can kind of start implementing that chart as well. So those are the main words for chart 1A. Then there are a few extras. The extra words here, we've got movie, which is a película. Okay, that's the movie that you're watching. Now, if you would go to the movies, as in like the movie theater, that's a different word. That is el cine. That would be the movie theater. So you go to the cine to watch the película. Bueno. Then we've got unbeso, and you could put un in front of this if you wanted to. Unbeso is kiss, like a kiss, but you can turn that into a verb, okay, to kiss, which would be besar. And we can use that phrase kind of to practice what we just did over here in the le grito. So let's say we wanted to say he kisses me. Okay, well, who's kissing? He is kissing. So we would say besa. And then we wanted to get to he kisses me. Well, remember, like we saw in le grito, that pronoun will go in front of your verb. So if we wanted to say he kisses me, we would say me besa. Bueno, or I kiss him. Then we would say le beso. Unbeso, because I kiss him. Bueno. All right, and then the final word here is popcorn, and that is said palomitas de maíz. Bueno, so I know that was a really quick run through of Chart 1A, but hopefully that gives you some clarification. There is a Quizlet set over this. I highly recommend hopping over there and studying these words because we'll continue to move through it. So if you don't take a look at them, you're going to be quite a few steps behind, okay? So I definitely hop onto Quizlet and take some time with these words. All right, let me know if you have any questions.